The Apache are culturally related Native American tribes from the southwestern United States and northern Mexico. These indigenous peoples of North America speak Southern Athabascan languages, which are related linguistically to Athabascan languages in Alaska and western Canada. Apache people traditionally have lived in eastern Arizona, northern Mexico, New Mexico, West Texas, and southern Colorado. Apache area, the collective homelands, consisted of high mountains, sheltered and watered valleys, deep canyons, deserts, and the southern Great Plains. The Apache tribes fought the Spanish and Mexican peoples for centuries. The first Apache raids on Sonora appear to have taken place during the late 17th century. In 19th-century confrontations, the U.S. Army found the Apache to be fierce warriors and skillful strategists. Apache groups are politically autonomous. The major groups speak several different languages and developed distinct and competitive cultures. The current division of Apache groups includes Western Apache, Chiricahua, Mescalero, Jicarilla, Lipan, and Plains Apache. Apache groups live in Oklahoma and Texas and on reservations in Arizona and New Mexico. Apache people have moved throughout the United States and elsewhere, including urban centers. Contemporary Apache tribes. The following Apache tribes are federally recognized. Apache Tribe of Oklahoma, Fort McDowell Yavapai Nation, Arizona, Fort Sill Apache Tribe of Oklahoma, Jicarilla Apache Nation, New Mexico, Mescalero Apache Tribe of the Mescalero Reservation, New Mexico, San Carlos Apache Tribe of the San Carlos Reservation, Arizona, Tonto Apache Tribe of Arizona, White Mountain Apache Tribe of the Fort Apache Reservation, Arizona, Yavapai Apache Nation of the Camp Verde Indian Reservation, Arizona. The Jicarilla are headquartered in Dulce, New Mexico, while the Mescalero are headquartered in Mescalero, New Mexico. The Western Apache, located in Arizona, is divided into several reservations, which cross-cut cultural divisions. The Western Apache reservations include the Fort Apache Indian Reservation, San Carlos Apache Indian Reservation, Yavapai Apache Nation, Tonto Apache Reservation, and Fort McDowell Yavapai Nation. The Chiricahua were divided into two groups after they were released from being prisoners of war. The majority moved to the Mescalero Reservation and form, with the larger Mescalero political group, the Mescalero Apache Tribe of the Mescalero Apache Reservation, along with the Lipan Apache. The other Chiricahua are enrolled in the Fort Sill Apache Tribe of Oklahoma, headquartered in Apache, Oklahoma. The Plains Apache are located in Oklahoma, headquartered around Anadarko, and are federally recognized as the Apache Tribe of Oklahoma. Name. The people who are known today as Apache were first encountered by the conquistadors of the Spanish crown, and thus the term Apache has its roots in the Spanish language. The Spanish first used the term Apache or Navajo in the 1620s, referring to people in the Chama region east of the San Juan River. By the 1640s, they applied the term to southern Athabascan peoples from the Chama on the east to the San Juan on the west. The ultimate origin is uncertain and lost to Spanish history. Modern Apache people today, and the U.S. government, maintain use of the Spanish term to describe themselves and tribal functions. Indigenous lineages who also speak the language that was handed down to them would also refer to themselves and the people in that language's term. Inda meaning person, and, or, people. Distant cousins and a subgroup of the Apache, generally, are the Navajo peoples who in their own language refer to themselves as the Diné. The first known written record in Spanish is by Juan de Ronate in 1598. The most widely accepted origin theory suggests Apache was borrowed and transliterated from the Zuni word Apacu meaning Navajos. Another theory suggests the term comes from Yavapai Pace meaning enemy. The Zuni and Yavapai sources are less certain because Onate used the term before he had encountered any Zuni or Yavapai. A less likely origin may be from Spanish Mapache, meaning raccoon. The fame of the tribe's tenacity and fighting skills, probably bolstered by dime novels, was widely known among Europeans. In early 20th century Parisian society, the word Apache was adopted into French, essentially meaning an outlaw. The term Apachean includes the related Navajo people. Difficulties in naming many of the historical names of Apache groups that were recorded by non-Apache are difficult to match to modern-day tribes or their subgroups. Over the centuries, many Spanish, French and English-speaking authors did not differentiate between Apache and other semi-nomadic non-Apache peoples who might pass through the same area. Most commonly, Europeans learned to identify the tribes by translating their exonym. What another group whom the Europeans encountered first called the Apache peoples. Europeans often did not learn what the peoples called themselves, their autonyms. While anthropologists agree on some traditional major subgrouping of Apaches, they have often used different criteria to name finer divisions, and these do not always match modern Apache groupings. Some scholars do not consider groups residing in what is now Mexico to be Apache. In addition, an Apache individual has different ways of identification with a group, such as a band or clan, as well as the larger tribe or language grouping, which can add to the difficulties in an outsider comprehending the distinctions. In 1900, the U.S. government classified the members of the Apache tribe in the United States as Pinal Coyote, Chickarilla, Mescalero, San Carlos, Tonto, and White Mountain Apache. The different groups were located in Arizona, New Mexico, and Oklahoma. In the 1930s, the anthropologist Grenville Goodwin classified the Western Apache into 5 groups: White Mountain, Sebecu, San Carlos, North Tonto, and South Tonto. Since then, other anthropologists consider Goodwin's classification inconsistent with pre-reservation cultural divisions. Willem de Reus finds linguistic evidence supporting only 3 major groupings: White Mountain, San Carlos, and Diltzer. He believes San Carlos is the most divergent dialect, and that Diltzer is a remnant, intermediate member of a dialect continuum that previously spanned from the Western Apache language to the Navajo. John Upton Terrell classifies the Apache into Western and Eastern groups. In the Western group, he includes Tobosa, Colima, Chacombe, Cibolo or Cibola, Pelone, Manso, and Kiva or Kofa. He includes Chacame among them as having definite Apache connections or names which the Spanish associated with the Apache. In a detailed study of New Mexico Catholic Church records, David M. Brute identifies 15 tribal names which the Spanish used to refer to the Apache. These were drawn from records of about 1,000 baptisms from 1704 to 1862. List of names. The list below is based on Foster and McCall, Opala, and Reus. The term Apache refers to 6 major Apache-speaking groups: Chiricahua, Chickarilla, Lipan, Mescalero, Plains Apache, and Western Apache. Historically, the term was also used for Comanches, Mojaves, Hualapais, and Yavapais, none of whom speak Apache languages. Chiricahua historically lived in southeastern Arizona. Chishi is a Navajo word meaning Chiricahua, Southern Apaches in general. Chuukane Acute is the Eastern Chiricahua band identified by Morris Opala. The name is an autonym from the Chiricahua language. Gileno referred to several different Apache and non-Apache groups at different times. Gila refers to either the Gila River or the Gila Mountains. Some of the Gila Apaches were probably later known as the Mogollon Apaches, a Chiricahua sub-band, while others probably coalesced into the Chiricahua proper. But, since the term was used indiscriminately for all Apache groups west of the Rio Grande, the reference in historical documents is often unclear. After 1722, Spanish documents start to distinguish between these different groups, in which case Apaches de Gila refers to the western Apache living along the Gila River. American writers first used the term to refer to the Membrenes of the Chihenda, the name being referred to a central Apache division improperly considered as a section of Opla's Eastern Chiricahua Band, and to Albert Schroeder's Mimbres and Warm Springs, Chiricahua bands in southwestern New Mexico. Copper mines Membrenes were located on upper reaches of Gila River, New Mexico, in the Pinos Altos area. Warm Springs Membrenes were located on upper reaches of Gila River, New Mexico, in the Ojo Caliente area. Mogollon was considered by Schroeder to be a separate pre-reservation Chiricahua band, while Opala considered the Mogollon to be part of his Eastern Chiricahua band in New Mexico. Jicarilla primarily live in northern New Mexico, southern Colorado, and the Texas Panhandle. The term Jicarilla comes from the Spanish word for little gourd. Carlana is Raton Mesa in southeastern Colorado. In 1726, they joined the Cuarteajo and Paloma, and by the 1730s, they lived with the Jicarilla. The Clanero Band of the Jicarilla, or the Dachajozhn Jicarilla, descendants of the Carlana, Cuarteajo, and Paloma. Parts of the group were called Lipianos or Claneros. In 1812, the term Carlana was used to mean Jicarilla. The Fletchers de Palo might have been a part of or absorbed by the Carlana. Lipan live in western Texas today. They traveled from the Pecos River in eastern New Mexico to the upper Colorado River, San Saba River and Llano River of central Texas across the Edwards Plateau southeast to the Gulf of Mexico. They were close allies of the Natages. They were also called Plains Lipan, not to be confused with Lipianos or Lipanish. They were first mentioned in 1718 records as being near the newly established town of San Antonio, Texas. Pelones live far from San Antonio and far to the northeast of the Ipandes near the Red River of the south of north-central Texas. Although able to field 800 warriors, more than the Ipandes and Natages together, they were described as less warlike because they had fewer horses than the Plains Lipan. Their population were estimated between 1,600 to 2,400 persons, were the Forest Lipan division. Mescaleros primarily live in eastern New Mexico. Pharaohs is derived from Spanish pharaon meaning pharaoh. Before 1700, the name was vague. Between 1720 and 1726, it referred to Apache between the Rio Grande, the Pecos River, the area around Santa Fe, and the Conchos River. After 1726, Pharaohs only referred to the groups of the north and central parts of this region. The Pharaohs were part of the modern-day Mescalero or merged with them. After 1814, the term Pharaohs disappeared and was replaced by Mescalero. Sierra Blanca Mescaleros were a northern Mescalero group from the Sierra Blanca Mountains, who roamed in what is now eastern New Mexico and western Texas. Sacramento Mescaleros were a northern Mescalero group from the Sacramento and Organ Mountains, who roamed in what is now eastern New Mexico and western Texas. Guadalupe Mescaleros were a northern Mescalero group from the Guadalupe Mountains, who roamed in what is now eastern New Mexico and western Texas. Limpia Mescaleros were a southern Mescalero group from the Limpia Mountains and roamed in what is now eastern New Mexico and western Texas. Natages is a term used from 1726 to 1820 to refer to the Pharaohs, Sierra Blanca, and Siete Rios Apaches of southeastern New Mexico. In 1745, the Natages are reported to have consisted of the Mescalero and the Salinero, but these were probably the same group. Were oft called by the Spanish and Apaches themselves true Apaches. had had a considerable influence on the decision-making of some bands of the Western Lipan in the 18th century. After 1749, the term synonymous with Mescalero, which eventually replaced it. Plains Apache are headquartered in southwest Oklahoma. Historically, they followed the Kiowa. Other names for them include Narisha, Nasha, Narisha, Nashandine, Narishandina, Narishi, Nari, California, Narisha, Nadika, Nadachia, Nadisha Kutana, Nadiisha, Nadiisha, and Nisha. Quaracha referred to by Coronado in 1541, possibly Plains Apaches, at times maybe Navajo. Other early Spanish might have also called them Vaquero or Clanero. Western Apache include Northern Tonto, Southern Tonto, Sebecu, White Mountain and San Carlos groups. While these subgroups spoke the same language and had kinship ties, Western Apaches considered themselves as separate from each other. According to Goodwin, other writers have used this term to refer to all non-Navajo Apachean peoples living west of the Rio Grande. Goodwin's formulation: all those Apache peoples who have lived within the present boundaries of the state of Arizona during historic times with the exception of the Chiricahua, Warm Springs, and allied Apache, and a small band of Apaches known as the Apache Mansos, who lived in the vicinity of Tucson. Sebecu is a Western Apache group, according to Goodwin, from north of the Salt River between the Tonto and White Mountain Apache, consisting of Cedar Creek, Carrizo, and Sebecu bands. San Carlos, a Western Apache group that ranged closest to Tucson according to Goodwin. This group consisted of the Apache Peaks, Aravapa, Pinal, San Carlos bands. Aravapa is a band of the San Carlos Apache. Schroeder believes the Aravapa were a separate people in pre-reservation times. Aravapa is a Hispanized word from the Oadam language. The Aravapa are known as Tisejine in the Western Apache language. Pinal, one of the bands of the San Carlos group of Western Apache, described by Goodwin, also used along with Coyote Road to refer more generally to one of two major Western Apache divisions. Some Pinaleno were referred to as the Gila Apache. Tonto. Goodwin divided into Northern Tonto and Southern Tonto groups, living in the north and west areas of the Western Apache groups according to Goodwin. This is north of Phoenix, north of the Verde River. Schroeder has suggested that the Tonto are originally Yavapais who assimilated Western Apache culture. Tonto is one of the major dialects of the Western Apache language. Tonto Apache speakers are traditionally bilingual in Western Apache and Yavapai. Goodwin's Northern Tonto consisted of Bald Mountain, Fossil Creek, Mormon Lake, and Oak Creek bands. Southern Tonto consisted of the Mazatzal band and unidentified semi-bands. White Mountain are the easternmost group of the Western Apache, according to Goodwin, who included the Eastern White Mountain and Western White Mountain Apache. Coyote Row refers to a southern pre-reservation White Mountain group of the Western Apache, but has also been used more widely to refer to the Apache in general, Western Apache, or an Apache band in the high plains of southern Colorado to Kansas. Other terms: Clanero is a Spanish language borrowing meaning plains dweller. The name referred to several different groups who hunted buffalo on the Great Plains. Lipianis, a coalition of splinter groups of Nadarende, Gulcarendi, and Lipan of the 18th century under the leadership of Pickaxe Indians Tinzala, who fought the Comanche on the plains. This term is not to be confused with Lipan,